Hi, in this video I want to run through some of the features of the NoiseBlend shader. Okay, so here's the demo scene you get from the asset store, and I'm using 3 different blends here. So I've got the wall, which is using this main brick texture, and I'm applying the blend using this grass, and the same with the ground. I'm using the stone gravel and applying the grass as the blend, and also with this planter I'm just using a galvanized steel as the main texture and applying this rust texture on top. Okay, so how does it work? So we create a new scene. There we go. We'll just create a plane. The simplest way to explain it, let me create a new material. Okay, and we'll assign it to that, and we'll create this as the Brinderi Tech NoiseBlend Opaque. Now we're going to create the first one, the first texture. We just use the blue, and for the blending we'll use the orange. Okay, so what we have this cutoff level. So if I increase this cutoff level, so make it to about 0.7. And we'll increase the frequency of the noise. Okay, and it's mixing it on this frequency. You have an overall tiling scale for everything you want, and it will also stretch in the U's and V's, and you can also offset it if you so desire. Okay, so what we've got our first frequency. Now what we want to do is we want to break up this edge to give it a bit more randomness. So what we can do is we can add a second channel. So in our second channel what we can do is we can increase the frequency. Increase the frequency to say about 20, and what you have the amplitude for each channel. And what that basically is, it's like a priority. So as they're roughly the same, it's mixing between them. But if we say we ramp up this amplitude, okay, it takes more of a priority, and you can start breaking up the edges. Okay, again we could add a third, and let's ramp that amplitude right up to about 200 to break that edge up even more. Okay, and that's basically what it does. So you can create the blends between them. On the main part as well, you have an edge soften, so you can give the edge a little bit of a soften. Okay, and that's how the main blend works, and you've got 4 levels of channels if you so desire to go down even further. Okay, now let me explain the high and low fall off. Now when you have textures you have mip mapping, so the further away it goes you get more of a degraded texture, so you don't get any sort of like flickering noise. Now, although the textures themselves have mip mapping, the blend doesn't. So what we need to do is we need to try and remove any flickering. So if you can see, as I pull away, it starts to flicker, because obviously they're less than a pixel. So we need to do something about that. So what you have is you have your fall off high and your fall off low. Now what that is basically, it's roughly a distance from the camera where it goes from the full channel frequency at the fall off low to removing it completely from fall off high. So the best way to do this is, let's go back down to 2 channels, because it always remembers what you've got on the 3rd channel. So we go down to 2 channels and we do the first one first. So if we get to about here, maybe let's put that down to about 100 just to see if it's removed completely. So it's removed completely from there, so we'll find out where we want it in. That seems so at roughly this distance it's completely gone, and as we move closer it comes in. So we want to do that with the 3rd one. So if we now open up the 3rd one, let's pop that down to probably less than that, to be honest. So if we go down to about 100, it's still flickering there, so we need it removed. So as we get closer it comes in, as we move away it gets removed on that level, and then the second one gets removed on that level. So it's basically about getting a balance between where the camera is, where the camera will be placed, and then adjusting that to sort of get your mip-map values, if you like, to stop that any flickering. So that's what that's used for. So let me show you another part of the feature. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the 2 textures. So I'm going to put the brick texture as the underlaying texture, and I will put the grass as the top one. Okay. Now I'll increase the edge soften just to soften that edge up a little bit. Now, what a great there's a great feature called is the base brightness cutoff effect. Now what that basically does is it takes the underlying texture, in this case it's the brick, and you can apply the blend texture depending on the brightness of the underlying texture. So if I wanted to get the grass to sort of like grow, if you like, in the mortar, we can up the brightness values and decrease the cutoff level. They sort of look like work opposites, and it'll start taking priority, applying the noise to the brighter parts of the underlying texture. And you can see it's starting to grow in the mortar now, which is pretty cool. And so it'll work if I change this to the stone gravel. Now the stone gravel is basically the opposite. It's between the stones is darker, so you'd want to do the opposite. So what we do is we'll use the base as darker, so we need to increase the level, the cutoff level. So you can see it's starting to use the darker parts of the mesh. Increase the blend a little bit more. Yeah, so that's basically how the shader works. Please hit like if you like it, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. See ya.